Hi.
Hello! Hey, everybody. Welcome to DnDTime Brews. This is a show that we do here every other Sunday. It's been weird. We haven't been doing it super regularly. This is my cat calling me a liar from across the room. We run the show every other Sunday where Pete, myself, and you, the lovely chat, create fun homebrew content for 5th edition D&D. How you doing, Pete?
I am powerful. I have strength, Jeremy, the likes of which you there at home have never seen. So as you can probably tell, yeah, new scenery, Pete. Yeah, my whole background situations need some work. I gotta fix up my lighting. But more than the scenery is new, my entire computer is new. I am now on 2 monitors. I have a desktop instead of a laptop. My strength is unbridled.
Yeah, just to give you guys perspective of how powerful Pete is, Pete did all of DnDTime, all the stuff that he's done so far on a crappy old, like, what, 2006 or 7 laptop?
No, it was newer than that. It was like a decent laptop.
Okay.
It was like 2015 or something.
Pete, if you had lied, it would have sounded way more impressive, though.
But it's still, I mean, now I have so much strength that I'm ready to stream at twice the power I ever have.
I agree with Shiva. Ew, laptop. We got some banjo love coming in from Frog. Hello, everybody in the chat. I see Maddie Morg. Sorry, go here. The Forgotten One Bionic. Shiva, the Greener Gray.
Thank you, Frog, for the 10 bits, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that was a very kind and generous donation.
Indeed it was.
Appreciate it.
And also, yeah, the little banjo, it's actually a banjo ukulele. It's a ukulele that sounds like a banjo, and it's got the banjo style to it, which has always been behind me, but now the weird angle has revealed it.
Indeed.
So, and also, I got a brew.
Oh, Pete, what's your brew this evening?
I got a Corona Light. It's just a very regular brew.
Oop, everything just got whack.
Oh, no.
Everything better? Okay, looks like we're okay.
Oh, dear.
My screen is being funky. All right. Go back. There we go. This is just the way I want it.
Also, chat, I'll now know when you're talking, because I can see it on my second monitor.
Pete can see the chat.
So if you speak to me, I will respond to you, because I can see your words.
While he's streaming.
Yep.
Unreal. So, because we haven't said yet what we're doing, today, we're going to be doing some race options for DnDTime. We haven't done these in a while. We knocked out a couple some time ago, and you can see those on our website, dndtime.stream over here, where yeah, we did some cool stuff on DnDTime Brews. You can look at our homebrew compendium, where you can see we've done bunny folk, we've done entothropes, which are kind of bug lycanthropes. We've done florin, which are flower people, and we've done undead, which is neat. They're undead. Pretty straightforward, you know.
They're like brains and stuff.
We're going to be doing something different today. We're going to be doing not those, because we've already done them.
Yeah, we're going to be doing, well, I guess we don't have anything particular in mind. Me and you had a couple of ideas that we talked about beforehand, which I don't know if you want to get into that first, or do you want to start kind of, where would you like to begin tonight, Jeremy? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I think what we want to do, right, the first thing we want to do is we want to talk about how we go about picking race options for DnDTime, why we would homebrew certain races over others, because there is like some reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, I want to be. So, for example, a great example could be like dog people, right? Dog folk. Yeah, we could homebrew a dog folk, but there's a pretty comparable option already in the game with the Tabaxi.
Tabaxi, yeah.
And it's, you know, their ability, they get to run really fast for a time. You know, that works for dogs pretty well. There's not a lot that would that would make us think, oh, we don't want to do dogs or fox folk, unless they're going to go with the kind of magic kitsune deal. There's not a lot of reason to just do normal fox folk, because there's already things for that can fulfill that kind of fantasy. Whenever you're doing homebrew, I feel you should be trying to fulfill an archetype or a niche that doesn't already exist in the game. And that's really what we're going for here with these races. They need to fill archetypes for characters that don't fit within the current confines and mechanics of the edition.
Agreed. And I think beyond that as well, when we're kind of picking out what we're going to do, we also very much weigh what you guys are interested in. And kind of also gauging kind of what people are playing. I know a lot of the time, and I think Frog is kind of touching at that right here. I vote a fey race, like maybe a small fairy-like race with candy themes, because I think you're thinking very much of sugar in that regard, because that sounds like it would be a perfect race to play sugar as. But we definitely look at what you guys are playing, because a lot of you kind of tend to homebrew and flavor your races however you see fit to make the character that you want to make. We look at that stuff as well and kind of consider what types of stuff people are playing in D&D time and what like archetypes they want to be there too.
Yeah, and then of course, last but certainly not least, we also kind of think of the mechanical implications. This is like a wider kind of stretch, but if we were going to make a large race option, like a large size category race option, there's huge implications in that, both mechanically and in terms of adventure design. If we make an adventure that, like, in part of the adventure, you've got to crawl through some catacombs, well, that character's screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And having, like, one or two exceptions to that, like, I know Core, a character in D&D time played by Wild Ricochet, is a large creature. He ate the mushroom of growth and is a large creature.
That's the bag.
And having one exception to that works, because Pete and I can work around one exception. If we make it a common occurrence, that limits our kind of capacity. Yeah. And the same could kind of fall under for tiny creatures as well.
Agree. Yeah, if we were going to make something fey, we'd make, small would probably be the largest size that we would do. 0.5 I just got here. Well, welcome, Willful Sprite.
Yeah, we're doing 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Is this our stream here? So it should be pretty good. So I'm already seeing a bunch of stuff coming in the chat. So this is actually exactly what we were kind of hoping for, is getting a bunch of ideas from you. So
and it's funny, the exact three, I mentioned that me and Jeremy were discussing some things beforehand. I think the exact three things that we discussed are the three that have come up so far, which were some kind of Feytouched race, maybe a Grung, or maybe a Warforged, or some kind of automaton.
Mm-hmm.
And Matty Morris points out an idea here, which I think is cool, which is there's always some other undead sub-races too. If you notice, you have a plethora of normal X race that doesn't have an equivalent in the undead yet that can be added to. That's certainly true. I think there's a good amount of options in the undead. We covered like a lot of the bases, but we could expand that infinitely. We could, in theory, expand it to every race, which we probably won't ever do that intense, but I like that idea as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the undead that we have currently on the website, which you can find at dndtime.stream, I'm gonna plug that forever, is I believe it covers sub-race options for the main races in the player's handbook. I think there are a few exceptions. I don't think halfling's on there.
That sounds right.
But I think that might be it. Or tiefling isn't on there either. I think it was the common races is what I went. Wolf of Sprite, the most recent edition I contributed to, my son was 3.5 because that's what was current at the time. Yeah, Willful Sprite, I'll say 3.5 was big for a really long time. And 4th edition was kind of a bit of a letdown for a lot of people. 5th edition, I think, is like, I don't know. It's a very simple but enjoyable system, right? It lets all the mechanics get out of the way to just play the game, whether that's role playing or fighting monsters or all of that. So, yeah, if you want to learn more about 3.5, of course, hang out here.
Or 5e rather.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
5th edition. You can always hang out here, or you can jump over. I know Matty Morgs also streams. He's a good friend of the channel, and
Indeed.
He does a lot more workshop content. Which is really helpful.
A lot of the character creation and stuff too, for great kind of beginner content there.
Indeed. So let's see, we got Feytouched. I'm looking at the races that we saw mentioned in the chat. Feytouched, like a pixie sprite kind of deal. I think that works really well. There's like a really interesting. We could do some stuff with that.
Yeah, it's a very open net.
We might even be able to like wrap stuff like the Kitsune into that. I think we can go with a very broad stretch for the Feytouched with maybe a couple of optional mechanics like sub race. The Face of Jericho says Bullywug. Welcome, Jericho. I think we did brew up a Bullywug really quickly a long time ago.
Yeah, I think we did it in like a half an. We were like trying to slam it into a half an hour at the end of a stream.
Yeah, Bullywugs are interesting because all they really have that makes them special mechanically is they jump.
And no one likes them.
Yeah, no one likes. Is the thief class obsolete now? No. Thief is a subtype for rogue. If you're a rogue, then you can be a thief. What else? Grung and Warforged were kind of the other big ones. I saw V-Bunny said dog people and plant people. V-Bunny, we got plant people. They're the Florin. You can, but the dog people are also, like we mentioned, for them, unless we have a very specific thing we wanted to go for, like I think you could do maybe like a Saint Bernard kind of thing, because it's such like a unique dog or something like that. Like if you were at a very unique kind of deal, you could maybe roll with that. But for our purposes, I think we're going to stay away from it for now.
I have an idea from Vassals. Drew, they are Phoenix born or Tholark, some kind of like Aarakocra element. Oh, I got to get onto your style here. Your formatting.
Oh, it'll be weird. Don't worry about it. Here,
why do this? There we go.
That's too big. There we go. Perfect.
There we go.
We did it, boys. We fixed the font. Yeah.
Phoenix.
Tholark, interesting. Because I think the big things for that, right, is like they fly and they're elemental. And there are some mechanical implications on that would be kind of challenging. Let's see, we got another vote for Feytouched. I think Grung are another really interesting one that were mentioned in the chat because they're small. They're all about kind of their poisonous secretion.
Yeah, the poisons. Probably like a blowgun proficiency would be on there somewhere.
Yeah, I guess so.
I just picture every time I picture a gun, Grung. Every time I picture a gun, oh geez. Every time I picture a Grung, I picture them with a blowgun. I don't know why. Maybe it's because that's the picture in the 5e manual. Another vote for Warforged. There, people are interested in that. Another vote for Grung.
Yeah, I know. A while ago on our website, we or not our website on the DnDTime Brews. It was actually quite a long time ago. We did do a future topics kind of, and the races that we had come up with then were Bullywug. Okay, we did hash out something short for that. And to throw, we did it.
Hey!
Grung and Kitsune. Kitsune is one we hadn't done, but that kind of fits under the Feytouched.
Yeah.
So that might be a good direction to go. And same with the Grung. Warforged is interesting because there is a Warforged in the Eberron stuff.
But it's a little wonky.
Oh,
it's definitely nothing that we would want to put into D&D time.
Yeah, it's not okay for D time.
And if we made a Warforged in D&D time, I'd almost want to call it more like Automaton than Warforged, and I wouldn't want it to be like that flavor.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is
something
the Grung
adjacent?
Is it in Volo's Guide to Monsters?
The Grung are in Volos. That's right.
Yeah, maybe we start with the Grung. I don't think the Grung is gonna take too long.
Yeah, I think the Grung will be reasonably paced. Why don't we take a look at those?
Yeah, so what we're going to be putting together here tonight, if you checked out our website, it's got nice, eloquent, fancy write-ups for all of the races, including like background to them, quirks for some of them. It's got a lot of detail. This, I think right now, we're just going to be looking at putting together the raw mechanics of what a playable option would be for the race. And then, in our time in between episodes, Pete and I can hash out the prettier sides.
And for those of you who are interested in those, I'm just going to toss a link up to the races right there. Those are all the ones we did before.
Great work, Pete.
It's the power of 2 monitors,
It's incredible. All right, so Grung. Grungs are aggressive, frog-like humans found in rainforests and tropical jungles. They are fiercely territorial and see themselves as superior to most other creatures. So let's look at their kind of key abilities here. And I like that the book kind of highlights their core deals, what defines them. They're tree-dwelling amphibians. Cool. So that means they can probably survive in water reasonably. And they have climbing. They can climb or jump high. They live in trees. Nice. They have several different colors. All right, let's casts and colors. Grung Society is in a caste system. We don't have to worry too much about their caste system for this. Green Grungs are warriors, hunters, and laborers. Blue Grungs are artisans and other domestic roles. Okay. And purple Grungs are the leaders.
This is actually something I was unaware of that Facebook Jericho is pointing out here. There's an actual Grung race that's already been created from one Grung above. I haven't looked at that personally.
I have. One Grung above, for those unfamiliar, was a supplement created by Wizards, or not a supplement so much, but an adventure one-shot created by Wizards of the Coast for Make-A-Wish Foundation, I think? Oh, Christ, maybe not. I don't remember what they did it for. It was for their annual drive that they do. It's a charity event. But anyway, and the point of it was just it's a playable adventure that features Grung heavily. And the thing about it is there is a Grung stat block in there that you can use for a race, but it has some really serious issues.
That poisonous skin feature is a little funky.
Exactly, and that's the core issue. It's also the core identification of Grung. They have poisonous secretion on their skin. That's what makes a Grung. They're little poison dart frogs. And let's see if we can get a good picture of them. There's got to be some great. Yeah, here we go. Little poison dart frog people. Their core features, they can probably jump good, and they got poison. Great. But that feature is a problem because it's got a saving throw that is repeatedly has to be done, and it would be a real issue to slow up gameplay. Which is why we're kind of alternative option. Maybe the one that's not quite as...
Yeah, not crazy about it. I think there's definitely some ideas that we might borrow from here, though, which I'm looking at it now. And there's some things that it seems like they did pretty well.
Yeah. Do we actually have... I don't think I have one Grung above readily available.
I am looking out on my screen right now.
Yeah, so I've got the visual stuff on here. But looking at the rest of their kind of headers here, right? They got casts and colors. So maybe we can do some sub-races for different colored Grung. Maybe. We'll see. Naturally toxic. All Grungs secrete a secrete a substance that is harmless to them but poisonous to other creatures. A Grung also uses this venom to poison its weapon. See? And slavers. Okay, we probably don't have to put that in their stat block. And water dependency. They need to be in water. Interesting.
Not only do we not have to, we won't put it in their stat block.
Yeah, we're probably not going to put that one in there because there are issues.
There's some problems with it, and also just we don't want people to go into a character thinking they have to play them in a certain way.
Well, it's also interesting because note how water dependency here. A Grung that fails to immerse itself in water for at least 1 hour during a day suffers one level of exhaustion at the end of that day, blah, 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 blah. That's not in the Grung stat block. That's
it's
in
interesting.
The flavor text, and that's important. That's in there for a reason. It's so that you don't have to worry about that if you don't want. And we are going to choose not to worry about it.
Amen. Couple things I'm seeing in chat. A poisonous skin frog. Don't lick them. You'll get high. You'll get dead if you lick these guys. And then next she was saying, so they play League. Naturally toxic and all. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Everybody asked, don't you have water dependency on one of the Florins? I don't think that was on...
Sort of. The answer to that is sort of. I think. Did we actually have it? We might have had it on the anemone.
I don't know. Yeah, it's on there on the anemone.
Maybe we will leave it on there then.
Well, I was also actually going to say maybe we'll change the anemone such that we no longer have them on there. Because I agree with you that I don't think it should be on the Grung. So I'd rather actually just go back and remove that.
It kind of makes more sense on the anemone to me, though.
Logically, for sure.
Truly underwater creature.
Yeah, they are a fishy creature. But I feel like I would rather
Well, we'll worry
for,
about
for
that.
one thing, I would rather not put it on the Grung, regardless of whether what we do with the
regardless, it's not applicable to DnDTime like ever.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about our grungs, our cute little froggy friends. You know what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm gonna do here, guys? I'm gonna do something crazy.
Don't, Jeremy. I'm not ready.
I'm gonna open the snipping tool. We're gonna get snippy of the grung. We're gonna copy them. Boop. Oh wait, up at the top here. Where are we? Stat block. No. Google why? All right, there we go. Boop. Now we can just look at them as we make.
For inspiration and heart.
Exactly.
So, do you want to just start diving into creating this thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing I want to do. So, when we're making a race, we have to figure out its ability scores, its size category, its speed, and then its actual mechanics and its ability. So, these are kind of the easy ones because, for the most part, we should probably be able to pull those right off the creature's stat blocks, right?
Yep. And I think there's a couple of obvious ones. I think for ability scores, probably Dex and Con.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their abilities, that's what they're good at.
Yep.
So, totally agree.
Dex +2, Con +1.
We'll worry about like what the pluses are before then, but I think it's definitely a +2 deck. But I think it's +1 or 2 maybe for Con. We'll see like how powerful their other abilities are. Where we put ability scores is all based on like, you know, whether it's a +2 or a +1. It will just depend on.
This is.
What's it?
Whoopsies. This is an easy one. They are small creatures.
So small creatures, there are some implications mechanically for that. They're in the player's handbook. I think it's about two-handed weapons or something like that.
Yeah.
We're gonna worry about that later. Vibun was saying Con +2. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't see these guys as particularly.
They're jumpy. Yeah, definitely jumpy. I feel like the agility of the tiny creatures is outweighing their fortitude, and the Con makes sense to me because of the poison. But
well, and there's also an option, right? We're looking at the Grung here, and this is the green Grung, the basic Grung stat block. It's got a +2 in Con and Dex. But if we go down to the elite Grung, it's the same. But the Grung Wildling, which is a spellcaster, has some wisdom. And you know, maybe if we choose to go with subrace options, yeah, that's the end of the Grung. If we end up going with subrace options, maybe we can have one that has wisdom instead of something else. Instead of probably Con, I think.
That maybe makes sense to me. But yeah, let's see what we end up at. For next one though, speed. We have speed. There's regular speed, climb speed, swim speed, and flying speed. Just went right ahead and took flying speed out, as I'm certain that these aren't going to have that. But I think both climb speed and swim speed, both of those are relatively applicable. Also, it's at 30 feet right now.
Grung don't have a swim speed.
Oh, well then, do they have a climb speed?
Yeah, they do, a 25-foot climb and movement.
And I think 25-foot climb and movement is what I was probably thinking, actually. That's where I was headed to. So I think that's a great place to begin.
I'll make that edit. And you can make
I got the climb.
Cool. Subraces would be pretty much the colors, right? Yeah, Frog. If we choose to do subraces, which there are reasons to do subraces and reasons not to do subraces. Reasons to do subraces are it could be really neat, right? We get some new abilities or features. We can diversify what Grung can do if we can't fit everything we want on one option. The reasons against it are we don't want someone, for example, Greenie in DnDTime is a great example of a green Grung. And if we make like the red Grung the optimal option for the thing that the player playing Greenie wanted to accomplish, we're kind of contrary to that because there is this baggage within their caste system of the Grung that some players might want to look to for inspiration. That might be a good reason not to do colors as a sub. But if we do sub races, it would definitely be by color.
Yeah,
for certain.
So we're going to get into some of the more flavor-oriented ideas right now. For example, age. And I think we can actually probably just use the old races text for this because that's what Grung are.
The what?
The race, the D&D, the previously done raced thing for that.
Oh, yeah.
which is I will place it in here.
I don't see anything in here that really. Oh, yeah. I mean, it just says that they hatch, and in 3 months they become an adult, a juvenile, and then in 9 months they become an adult. So I'm actually going to copy and paste that.
So I have right here, Grungs mature to an adulthood in a single year, but have been known to live up to 50 years, is from the race that they made, which I think is pretty decent. Nice and succinct.
Yeah, but I mean, here's some more stuff we could
just
put in
want more? You just want more pile?
I mean, we could.
I'm not necessarily opposed to it.
Yeah, I mean, if we've got this extra stuff in here from the book, there's really not a lot of reason to not keep it, right? It's neat. It gives a little bit more context. But I think you're right. We could have kept it nice and simple if we wanted and just left it at they can live up to. Wildling is a subrace or a variant. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how these abilities kind of pan out. And if we need to excuse you, to have subraces. Let's talk about alignment. So alignment's really funky. This is a mechanic that a thing that a lot of people think shouldn't be in D&D, given where it has, where the game has evolved. But I don't know. I think it's all right.
This is the alignment for Grung as D&D puts it, which is to say most Grung are lawful, having been. They pluralize Grung. Doesn't Grung feel like it should be plural on its own? The Grung.
I'm gonna just make it.
Yeah.
Nope.
Same way up at the top too. They said Grungs mature to adulthood, but
I hate that.
Yeah, I do too. Most Grung are lawful, having been raised in a strict caste system. They tend toward evil as well, coming from a culture where social advancement occurs rarely, and most often because another member of your army has died and there is no one else of that caste to fill the vacancy.
I'm not super into that.
I'm not opposed to it. It's basically, it would be the question of what do we decide that Grung are in the context of the land of D&D time. Mm-hmm. I think the first sentence is fine. Most Grung are lawful, having been raised in a strict caste system. And I think maintaining that, yes, the Grung use a caste system, I think that's cool, but the rest of it seems a little bit extraneous and also very dependent on lore. I'm almost just fine with the whole sentence on alignment being the first sentence, unless we also want to build out some lore for what the Grung are in D&D time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could just say where social advancement occurs rarely. I think we just end it there. The thing that got me was talking about armies.
Yeah, a little funky.
That made me feel a little strange. I'm okay with this, they tend toward evil and don't have this social advancement, because that is kind of iconic to the Grung.
Yeah, okay, I'm in on that.
Okay, so we've trimmed that down a little bit. Kind of the opposite of adding this extra language on age, because I feel like adding age gives a little bit more context for players to play off of, where what we were talking about with alignment there, talking about armies and things like that, is not giving more context for players to play off of, but kind of boxing them in a little. And that's what we're trying to avoid on these races, is boxing players in with their options and their character creation.
Always. So let's talk size.
Yeah, V-Money was saying the same thing about armies. Armies is weird. A Moor of Grung. Is that the group of Grung? Is it a Moor?
They were talking. V-Money was saying a croak of Grung. I like both. I like both. Size, Grung stand between 2.5 and 3.5 feet tall and average about 30 pounds. Their size is small. I don't think there's anything that needs to be changed there. I think that's ready to go.
Yeah, pretty much straight and narrow there. No problems.
And
now
let's
we're on the most interesting part.
Want to skip that and do languages really quick?
Oh, yeah. They speak Common and Grung.
Is Grung a language?
I don't think... maybe. I think so.
You're probably right. I just didn't know. Yep, you can speak. Oh no! According the original version of it, you can only speak Grung. You don't know Common.
Well, yeah, most monsters don't know Common. But I think it's okay to say they know.
No, I mean in the original race that Wizards made, you can only speak Grung. They don't give you Common.
Did they really just take the stat block from the Grung and just paste it in and say it's a playable thing?
It's probably because it's for that one shot in which you're only being a grung. Like they didn't intend it for outside of that play. I feel, and so that's why we're not going to use it as it is.
Oh, excellent call! They speak Bunnish. Great call, Matty Morgs. The secret language of the bunny folk. Anywho, so let's talk a little bit more about these core abilities. So when you're making races where you don't have like a really obvious, like here we have the Grung stat block. It's a great example of what a standard Grung kind of looks like. And if you look at the other Grung down here, they've got the same basic features: amphibious, poisonous skin, standing leap, amphibious, poisonous skin, standing leap. Yeah, pretty standard. But if you don't have those, look to these kind of stats here, right? These main trade-dwelling amphibian, naturally toxic, water dependency. Look at those, and they can help to give you ideas for what their abilities and features should be. But in this case, we're pretty straightforward. They're amphibious, they have poisonous skin, and they have a standing leap.
And I think we can just take the fact that they're amphibious and use an ability that already exists, amphibious, whole cloth, and they can breathe air and water. That's all there is to that one.
The next one, poisonous skin, we'll do that the last.
Yeah, that's going to be our flex feature right there.
Indeed.
Standing leap. They have a jump, do they not?
Yeah, they do. They have standing leap, which says the Grung's long jump is up to 25 feet, and its high jump is up to 15 feet without a running start. With or without a running start.
I am very also okay with that feature as is, yeah.
Oh. Oops. I'm broke. All right, cool. Here we're going to just get rid of the bold, get rid of the italic. Pretty straightforward. They can jump pretty good. Nothing about that is really game breaking, especially since they can already climb. So I don't think that's a particularly big issue. So we're just talking now really about poisonous skin. Are there any other main features that we think are super applicable to Grung?
Blowgun dart proficiency.
Blowgun proficiency. Agree. And you know what? Way to look at that is just, oh, they got a dagger. All right, and that's where's blowgun? Short bow? Do they not have blowguns? This one's not a mesmerizing, sure.
Dude, look at the picture.
Yeah, right? Got a blowgun in the picture.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's a whip.
Oh, you might be right.
I also see these guys as using blowguns.
Doesn't it feel right?
It really does to me.
I just want it. Man, maybe in the land of D&D time, it's true that a lot of Grung use blowguns.
Yeah, we're going to call this Grung Tactics.
Oh, nice. Good name.
Great name for a feature. I'm going to put it up in the alphabetical order, as we always do. And what is this? What's the correct text? What's the right language for this? I know the elf.
We can look at the dwarf or the elf, yeah.
Right?
Just a great brewing tip. You've seen us doing it a ton already today. I got it from the dwarf right here.
Is it just with the blowgun? Is that it?
Is that it? I'm 100% in if that's the case.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, first with the blowgun.
And that doesn't actually add any power because the blowguns are never used.
Oh, with the blowgun and net.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I like giving them a net. That sounds like fun.
That feels also like, pardon the comparison, but I feel like the Grung are very Ewok-y. I picture the Grung having all kinds of. Yeah, I know. I picture the Grung having a lot of those like forest tactics though, where they have nets and boulders and catapults and all that kind of dumb stuff that.
Yeah, so let's talk about stuff that isn't in here that makes sense with the Grung, right? Obviously, the poisonous skin, we're going to handle that in a second, but we also haven't talked about kind of their natural camouflage, which seems like it's kind of important to them. There these, I mean, I guess the orange and red don't make a lot of sense, but the green one does it. Is that something we'd want to incorporate?
I feel like it's actually, I feel like in natural camouflage is different because like poison things evolve in nature to look poisonous. So I feel like they're actually trying to show off their color.
Okay. Yeah, I get that too. I just look at the green grung and I think of Rainforest and like, he's pretty sneaky.
I think if we do a sub-race thing and we do it by color, that's a thing for the green one. That would be cool.
Well, and let's figure it out. Do we need a sub-race? I don't know.
I'm leaning no, but also it's going to depend on like what we do with the poison skin and how wild it ends up getting. And...
Well, let's read the current poison skin. Any creature that grapples the grung or otherwise comes in direct contact with its skin must succeed on a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or become poisoned for 1 minute. A poison creature no longer in direct contact with the grung can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turn, ending the effect on a success. Okay. So that's what it naturally is. And I believe that's the exact same ability that's in the one grung above, correct?
Yes.
So I think we should start with that and see where we can go, right?
I'm down for it.
What we want to do and what changes with that. Because there's one thing I noticed in here, and that is it doesn't say anything about a grung being able to use their poison on a weapon.
That's in like the annotations afterwards. If you go down, it's the variant for grung poison. Oh wait, no, that's not even in the variant. It's just
talking about poison.
There's somewhere in the Volo's guide where it brings it up.
Grung poison, yeah. And it says grung poison loses potency after 1 minute of being removed from the grung. A similar breakdown occurs if the grung dies. A creature poisoned by the grung can suffer an additional effect depending on the grung's skin color. This effect lasts until the creature is no longer poisoned by the grung. Green. The creature can't move except to jump or make standing jumps. If the creature is flying, it can't take any actions or reactions unless it lands. Cool. Blue. The creature must shout loudly or otherwise make loud noise at the start and end of its turn. Purple. The poison creature feels a desperate need to soak itself in liquid or mud. It can't take actions or move except to do so or reach a body of liquid or mud. Red. The poison creature must use its action to eat if food is in its reach. Orange. The poison creature is frightened of its allies. And gold. The poison creature is charmed and can speak grung.
We can't use any of those. Or we could use some of them, but there's some in there that are completely don't really work as a player mechanic.
I see as a really great ability here, mentioned by Farful in the chat. Apothematic coloration. I'm not familiar with that term, but has advantage on intimidation checks against creatures that want to eat it. Okay.
There were a few people talk about that warning color.
Yeah. So, and I think maybe intimidation checks isn't the way to handle that one, personally. But I think we could do something really cool with it. So what's apothematic coloration? What does that mean? Like, I don't know what the word...
I think that's just warning coloration. It's the same thing. That's just the fancier term for it. And it's basically when poisonous and dangerous creatures evolve to have a bright color to warn creatures that they are poisonous and protect them.
So I think what we could do with that, right, is I mean, a creature has advantage against saving throws. I think, like, if we have an advantage on saving throws, maybe a disadvantage for creatures that want to eat that like are trying to swallow the creature. My thought is like the Tarask, for example, has a swallow feature.
Maybe just like any creature that would make a bite attack against the creature.
There we go.
And do we want to say just flat disadvantage on bite attacks, or do we want to?
Let's talk about that.
Because I feel like the two options, or the couple of options I'm thinking right now, is either a flat, if you go to do this, it's just harder to hit them, and that being the idea of the hesitation is factoring into it, or when you would make a bite attack against a grung, you have to make some kind of save in order to do it, and then there's an immunity to it. I'm not super crazy about either of those effects, even though I do like the mechanic. There's also some recommendations from Frog and V wanting to just do a proficiency in intimidation, which isn't necessarily a bad way to go. It's not as exciting, but it might be a good fallback if we're not
active.
that's what. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like it comes up as much. That's definitely true.
I think what might be a cool idea, and this is a little funky, but hear me out. What if whenever a creature would make a bite attack on its turn, a hostile creature would make a bite attack on its turn, it must bite a different creature from the Grung if possible? Like, I think we could find a way to phrase that didn't sound unreasonable. That's not quite right, though.
But I feel like that doesn't, because I feel like there's definitely some stuff that would get funky there in terms of
that's weird.
Allies, and it would require some caveats for who they target and when they target. Like, I'm not opposed to disadvantage on bite attacks.
Yeah, I'm just worried because there are some creatures that are super aligned on their bite attack.
It's just a question of like how niche you think that is versus how effective it is. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess that's so. Let's talk about power. Amphibious, is that powerful? I think that's meaningful.
It's not irrelevant, but I don't think it's powerful.
Grung tactics, that's not meaningful. Not super meaningful. Poisonous skin, we haven't revised that yet, but I want to put some power on there. Standing lead, that's fairly meaningful.
And a thing that we haven't given them yet that they probably should have is poison resistance and immunity.
Yeah, so let's look at the Grung stat block and see what they got.
They have immunity and condition, immunity to the poison condition.
That is super strong.
Yes, it is.
Oof. Is that something we want to do?
I feel like not putting, I don't know about the condition, I don't know about immunity, but not at least putting some kind of poison on resistance on these Grung is probably a disservice to the...
I would agree. I think they definitely need a poison resistance.
Immunity, I think we could talk about. Maybe that's something that we could negotiate in terms of power level once we hit the end and we feel like we're in a reasonable place, but...
Yeah, I think what we can say is we can give them poison resistance, and then we can give them immunity to Grung poison. Right?
Yeah, I mean, because logically they have to have poison immunity because otherwise they die from having their skin.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It says specifically in their stat block, you read it earlier, that, where does it say poisonous? A Grung, it is harmless to them, but poisonous to... So their poison is harmless to them, but poison other creatures. It just says that. So I'm thinking like, and I see Sword is saying direct damage, no, it's a status, yes. I think that would be a good idea. Maybe we put that under poisonous, because poisonous skin. This is where we're getting complicated.
Like I said, I think we just start building some other features, then we come back to this and look at what our power level is. Because poison immunity versus poison resistance is just a big jump in terms of power. So I think it's just worth seeing where we're at so we know. Because maybe
we'll look at the poisonous skin feature.
We finish and we have room and we can just give them poison immunity, because there's certainly precedent for that. The undead that we created have poison immunity. Additionally, the OP Yuan T have poison immunity.
True. Do the undead have immunity? Did I give it to them?
I thought we decided on actually doing the immunity. I might be wrong about that, but I think so. I can look right now.
They have poison immunity. They do. Son of a gun.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we'll talk about poisonous skin. Yikes! This is a rough one.
I think for starters, I think the poisonous condition, I think we should just not mess with that at all.
The poison condition, I agree.
Yeah, so I think having that as like a baseline, we're not going to try and play around with the poison condition is a good place to start.
And that is important to get rid of this con saving throw. Get rid of that con saving throw, sir.
Yeah.
Goodbye, con saving. I think maybe if we say like a creature that ends its turn in direct contact with the grung or the grung skin, something happens.
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think the obvious idea here is takes a little bit of damage.
Yeah. I think that's a good one. And what do we want to take the damage from? I know for the Florin, for the Anemone, we let them do some damage on a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And they would deal, how much was it? Half your level damage rounded up. But it took their reaction. So maybe this is, since it's not a reaction, right? It's just they automatically take it. Maybe we do proficiency bonus.
Yeah, I mean, I like the scaling of proficiency bonus. I don't like using the proficiency bonus, but I feel like there's probably no better way to get that scaling right.
Yeah, because I don't want it to be as powerful as the Anemone, right?
No, that makes sense.
Because the Anemone takes its reaction, and there are some caveats to it. This just always happens. So if a creature swallows a grung, it takes the poison damage until the grung dies.
Yeah.
To your proficiency bonus. Cool. Nice and simple there. Do we want to do anything else with poisonous skin? I kind of like the idea
of them being able to use it with their blowgun.
Yeah. And I think Sheba said something great in chat. Maybe Constitution modifier. Maybe. I'm a little tenuous on kind of stipulating in the race that the creature might be multi-ability dependent. But it's not too bad.
I like it. I like the idea of it more than proficiency bonus. I like writing the words Constitution modifier more than I like proficiency bonus, but I like the proficiency bonus probably is better in the terms of how it works.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, what's the worst case scenario? I think Constitution modifier is fine.
It's more interesting. And then we should put a minimum one.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's minimum 1 damage, right?
I'll go check it out, but I believe you're right about that.
So let's talk about putting attack on a weapon. And I think we can just say when a grung uses its blowgun, it deals additional damage equal to its Constitution modifier.
Do we want it to be applicable in some way to other weapons, though? Or do we want it to just be like a blowgun thing?
That's a great question, because that gets really... The thing about a blowgun is just almost no damage. Just very little damage by default. As opposed to some other weapons, which deal a ton. Like, being able to put that on a greatsword, for example. Like, it's not a greatsword, it's a small creature. A longsword, big difference than putting it on a blowgun.
Yeah,
I think the idea of incentivizing the grung to use their blowgun a little more.
I think if we did like an all-purpose thing, we'd just have to put a caveat on it that there's a limited number of, like, you can do this once per day, or
Yeah.
It wouldn't be an always feature. It would be a sometimes feature. Swordco here says tongue lashing with a grapple effect on medium and small creatures.
That is a Banner hub.
Yeah, you'd have to be bigger for that boy to.
And it's
that
horrifying.
Yeah. Grapple effects grapple effects on monsters are okay, but grapple effects on characters are really scary.
Yeah, it gets really busted. I really like that poisonous skin feature. We get their blowgun. They get a reason to use the blowgun, because with the blowgun, right? Let's say you have a con modifier of +5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Best case scenario. That means the blowgun does 1 damage by default +5. So there's a 6 average damage plus your dex modifier. Compared to like a rapier, which does a D8, that averages 5 damage. It's actually better for them to use their blowgun.
That's true.
I like that. Not a lot better. 1 damage is the difference.
At fully spec'd.
Yeah, fully spec'd. I like this. I like this a lot, actually.
I'm into
Are
it.
you cool with that?
Yeah, I was trying to think, like, I would love it if it had just, like, a little bit more powerful, was just, like, a touch more powerful, because I was trying to think, like, in the case of, like, a long-term campaign, I can picture the Grung, like, eventually, like, oh, yeah, the blowgun's gonna come up more, because there's gonna be, like, weird situations where, like, I don't have access to other stuff, but I was just thinking, like, in D&D time, how often are you gonna, like, want to use the blowgun versus your weapon, realistically? Because not a lot of people are floating around either with a +5 con.
So what we also could say is once per turn, as a bonus action, you can apply your poison to a weapon or piece of ammunition. And we can just say the next time that thing hits, it does extra damage.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But then it's just like, you know,
that's kind of boring.
What's boring? It's also pretty powerful. Just like every turn, being able to like just get an extra bonus on your damage.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like the blowgun.
Yeah, I like it too. I just want to make I would like to make the blowgun just a little bit better.
How are we gonna do that then?
I don't know. Let's leave it for now and then come back to it and see if maybe some inspirational strike while we're working on the rest of it.
Well, we could always say half your level. We could do the same kind of direction as the poison defense.
But
I like it that it's Constitution modifier for both of these.
Yeah, it's definitely weird for it to not be the same. It would be inelegant for it not to be the same.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what we could do? Here we go. The blowgun. We should probably look at that weapon.
It's a good point.
What does a blowgun do? A blowgun does 1 piercing damage. A blowgun is a ranged weapon with up to 100 feet of range. Holy shit.
No one ever uses the blowgun.
The loading property. So you can only make 1 attack from it per turn. What if we put the poison condition on the blowgun? Because it can only use it once per turn, so like the fighter making 8 attacks or whatever, there's not a million saving.
I'm okay with that on the condition that the poison condition doesn't apply for a minute and implies until the end of the creature's next turn.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, yeah. As long as it's not just, you know, you hit them with the blowgun once and poison lock them, but if you want to like use the blowgun like vicious mockery and impose disadvantage for a little bit, I think I'm very cool with that. And then I think it's a cool utility option.
Yeah. Oh boy. I totally botched that. I don't know how that phrasing's supposed to go.
Where are we at? And also, just while looking at that, the Matty Morms has an idea here. If you want to make it better, you could have it overcome poison resistance or immunity, because it's the most commonly resisted negated damage type, with fire shortly behind it. That's definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
Poison immunity and resistance are very common.
And Shiba was also saying we could also make the save modifier, instead of a static 12, we could make it based on your Constitution modifier.
I'm iffy on that.
It's interesting because obviously the DC 12 on the Grung stat block comes from 8 plus the Grung proficiency bonus plus their Constitution modifier.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it comes from. So
there's the precedent. There's the precedent in the Dragonborn for that as well. That's where their fire breath comes from.
Is there any natural attack like that?
Yeah, well, I'm saying on the race it uses that mechanic.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like it just in terms of unity of design. I do like it being low, but I could be talked into that. And I think there's even a logic to it where the reason why the poison condition applies to the blowgun and not your skin is because it's just surface contact versus, you know, you're
injection,
putting it into the bloodstream. Yeah. So I think there's a logic there for sure.
Do we want to give it that additional damage then?
I think it can keep the damage too. I don't think that.
Damn. Okay. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's overpowered because I think it's still going to be kind of suboptimal most of the time to use the blowgun, unless you're, situationally you might want to be like, oh, this is a dangerous round. Let's see if I can catch him with the poison, kind of tricky. But I feel like it's not a better option, say, than regular attack. It's not going to be like the best case scenario always to use the blowgun.
I'm just changing some of my language here, changing stuff to your because it.
Yeah, that is good.
Because that is how the language is supposed to go. Cool. So Poisonous Skin just got a lot of power. We just put a lot of oomph on there.
And so I think poison resistance, and then I think the caveat we can put it is that you are immune to the poisonous skin feature of other grunts.
I think that's a great idea. All right, so poison resistance. You have resistance to poison damage in the poison condition, and to saving throws against the poison, right?
Yeah. So Frog had an idea for a feature earlier, and he's brought it up here, so I'll talk about it again. He was talking back about the aposematic coloration. When a creature attempts to bite the Grung, it must make a wisdom saving throw against a DC of 8 based on charisma modifier. On a failed save, the creature must target another creature in range or forfeit its action.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like the Sanctuary spell.
It's Sanctuary, but
yeah, no.
But for bites, yeah, a little bit,
That's
little
way
bit
too
much.
powerful. Sanctuary has major drawbacks in that you cannot do anything harmful to other creatures, which is why it kind of works. This is not going to work like that. That'll be just too much. So, okay, right now we got Poison Resistance, we got Poisonous Skin, Standing Leap. All of these are weight-carrying features. I think we need to compare this to another creature with poison resistance. And I want to compare it to the Hill, because that is another race option with poison resistance. They got a +2 and a +1 on their stats, and they're not particularly great distributions, con and wisdom. Same speed, except the Grung have a climb. The dwarf has dark vision. That's nice. What were you saying? More proficiency?
They have more proficiencies. That's basically Grung tactics, and the dwarven proficiencies I would count as the same in terms of.
Yeah, pretty comparable. They get a tool proficiency, which is very much flavor.
Yep.
And I don't think the Grung need a tool proficiency. If you could say Poisoner's Kit, but I just don't know if that's necessary. Stone Cunning, which is very much flavor.
Flavor, that's fun.
And Dwarven Toughness, which gives them additional hit points, which is pretty meaningful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, looking at, compared to that dwarf, even without this coloration, we are pretty much at power.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
if we want to include that feature, I think we make it very much a ribbon.
Yeah, so I want to look at what creatures swallow other creatures. The Terrask does. What else?
The frogs. A lot of frogs. Bigger frogs.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to the giant frog. And the frog has the ability to swallow, which involves making a bite attack. I think what we can just say here, because we already have the poison damage here, right? So whenever a creature would make a bite to swallow you, it has disadvantage on the test. We are specific that it's only with swallow effect. I think that's okay.
That's pretty niche. I mean,
it's very good. But you have to understand most of the swallows, right? You're restrained by. So this is just rather than disadvantage, just equaling it out. So I think that's okay. It's powerful, certainly. Oh, pelicans have swallow attacks. Very true.
let me throw another idea out here, which might make it more reasonable to move around to bite. To just bite. What about if it's just the first time a creature tries to make a bite attack against you?
I think that's too good. A lot of creatures have bite attacks.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's just a one-time.
At the power level this Grung is currently, I think it really, really, this needs to be a ribbon. I think it needs to be very niche.
See, I was thinking that was... There's certain creatures against, I guess it's just a question of versus one creature that uses that swallow mechanic, this is much better, but versus, a pack of creatures, like a pack of wolves, that would be very good against that, because, they'd all try to bite and all have disadvantage, but...
Yeah, but disadvantage is so powerful.
Oh, for sure.
I'm thinking against any one big creature that has a bite attack, this is so strong. That would be so powerful.
No, wait, against a big creature, that has a swallow, this would be more powerful, wouldn't it?
Well, no, sorry, a big creature with a bite attack.
I was saying not all of them, just the first time they try to bite. Because it's like they see it and they're like, oh!
On a turn or individual creatures? Because that's a tracking.
On a 24 hours.
Yeah, that's a nightmare to track. Oh, did this one try and bite you yet? Maybe. I wouldn't want to put that in. Especially if you had a pack of wolves, right? That
was the thing I was just talking about, yeah.
Yeah, that would be, I don't know. I would not want to figure out which wolves have tried to bite you yet. There's a reason that monsters have that mechanic, but player characters don't, I think.
What about as a one use per day reaction, where you can just impose disadvantage on a bite attack? By showing off your coloring. Just because I like that more if it has a little bit more general appeal.
I think you're right. 'Cause at this point, while this mechanic might be more balanced or whatever the hell you want to say, it has the big issue of being so rare that the player is not going to remember they have it when it happens.
Also, I feel like in that situation, it's so good too.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so once per day, when a creature targets a bite attack, you may what?
You may use your reaction to, you show off your body, dude. You flex on them.
Okay. Show off your colors. What is that? Disadvantage?
Yeah.
Causing disadvantage on the attack?
Yeah. And then it's it's going to come up sometimes, but it's not going to destroy any encounters, I think. And I don't think that's super impactful.
Yeah. I'm kind of... Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's good. It's a good feature. I think that's okay.
Yeah, it's not irrelevant.
I'm just kind of worried because Standing Leap is good, Poison Skin is good, Poison Resistance is good, Grung Tactics is mediocre. I'm sorry, is a ribbon, really.
Yep.
Amphibious is good. Everything here is good. They have climb speed. They're really good. There's not a lot bad here. Oh, small is meaningful. So I'll give it that as a drawback. And not having dark vision is meaningful. It's a good race. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely think it's good. I don't think it's on the scale of...
It's not a UNT.
It's not a... Oh, it's God, no, it's not a UNT. I think it's on a... I think it's on a supplemental race scale. I think it's better than PHB race. Save a couple, obviously. I don't think it's as good as, say, a half elf.
Really?
Yeah, because they get the extra stat and stuff. Good stats though. They do get two good stats.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty good personally, but I think this is okay. I think we're in an okay spot. The important thing is that we're not shifting. There's no paradigm shift. Nothing here is this is now the OP meta optimal. So
oh yeah,
I think
that's for sure. Yeah, I'm happy with this.
It's gonna make a really good rogue.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And the only thing that might end up proving to be a little bit, I think, too good is probably the end of Poisonous Skin, the blowgun. See how it ends up working out with the saves and stuff.
Yeah, especially with the extra damage. Because
would you feel better
for example, on a rogue, right? That's the option. That's the strat. Play with your blowgun.
Oh, that's true because of sneak attack. So here's my question then. In that case, how would you feel better about it on the whole if you took away the extra con bonus damage to the second half?
I don't know. I'm just kind of torn because I don't want to make it like not useful. You know what I mean?
No, well, the poison condition makes it. See, that's the thing is like do they save against the poison condition and then it feels bad that they did 1 damage as opposed to like the.
Yeah. I think we keep it the way it is with the caveat along with all of the DnDTime Homebrew stuff.
Of course.
That, it could be subject to change in the future. Maybe we'll change. And only gameplay will tell. What is balanced and what is maybe not so balanced.
And we'll also take some time. Me and Jeremy always go through a couple phases where we'll look these over and review them and then do up a nice write-up before it's ready for DnDTime. So it won't be like, this won't appear for a little bit. Regardless of how done it kind of is now, which I think is in a good spot. How do you feel? I wanted to throw out, instead of a Posematic coloration, I almost wanted to just call the feature Posematic. Because that's just the word.
I like it better like that, personally. I like
just worried that people don't know the term.
I like it better with the coloration on there.
I'm not going to fight you to the death on it.
That's all I got. Cool. So, I think with that, we can call this Grung complete. We obviously will come back to this guy at some point to finish up the write-up.
Oh, it's just underneath. Did we count when we were talking features? Were we accounting for the fact that they have standing leap? Because it's not visible on the...
Yeah, I was accounting for that. It's okay. This is a good race.
Yeah, I wasn't even looking at standing leap. I had forgotten that they had that.
Standing leap I don't see as too powerful just because of the climb speed. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible.
It's good, but it's not, I don't know, not that big. There we go. I think we can call these guys good. They're definitely a little bit on the strong side. Yeah. So, with that, we can cross Grung off our list.
And I think we can also go ahead and...
Well, before we take our break, I was going to say, we should pick which one we want to do next.
Oh, my own opinion, I would like to do, I mean, I don't know if I'm necessarily feeling the Folark, and it seemed like Feytouched and Warforged were the two that the general consensus was on. I would rather look at Feytouched. That just interests me more. Personally.
And chat's saying about the same stuff. So what we'll do is we're going to take a quick break, refresh our drinks, relax a little bit, and when we come back in 5 minutes, we're going to jump onto the Feytouched. I don't know if we'll finish it, but we'll at least get a good start on there and figure out what we want to encompass with that, because this can be such a big category. So
yeah, gonna be funky.
Right, we'll back. See. Stay tuned.
Hi!
Hello.
That's true, 100%. And we're coming back at you with, I think we're going to be starting in just a moment on the Feytouched. We just finished up our Grung, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out on the whole. You too, Jeremy?
I'm pretty pleased. It came out pretty good. This is a nice little race. It might be a little on the strong side, but it's not game-breaking by any means. So I'm pretty happy. Hello, Misfit TV. Welcome. It's good to see you. Glad you stopped by.
Hi.
What else do we got going on in the chat, Pete?
Oh, that's a great question, Jeremy. You know, I can just go ahead and take a look right over there with the power of a second monitor.
Pete, this is a thing that everyone else has been enjoying forever.
Let's see. You forgot one said Quickling would be a cool one, and then Fraud was saying, we want to try to stay away from some of the more subjective flavorings, which is, I think, a pretty good idea. Avoiding things that have too much idea behind them, and rather making something that's more all-purpose that people can kind of make what they want. The Feytouched can be what they want it to be, and we'll also have to decide, like, based on how the class ends up looking. Like, Jeremy, I know you were talking about going in the direction of, like, maybe like Kitsune is a subclass. And so we have to decide if we want to do like a baseline thing and then go in the more focused directions where like they have specific identities, or we just want to go like a as a core idea. Yeah. Some things, my kind of first thoughts here were Feytouched being kind of like, and I think you'd said this when we were talking about it before, as being kind of a Fey tiefling.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I know in what is it? The Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, I think. There is an option for variant tieflings with a bunch of different options that you can kind of switch out. I believe it's Infernal Legacy or Lineage, whatever that trait is that tieflings have for these variant options. And I think that might be a really neat way to build this Feytouched. Kind of like that variant tiefling.
I think there might be... depending on what lore you want to use in terms of subclass too, if we're going to have variants, I can imagine something like, Seelie Feytouched, Unseelie Feytouched, that kind of thing. Rather than specific creatures, more just genres of Fey.
Yeah, so let's try and think of, like, I guess the first thing is, what categories do we want this to fulfill, right? So, like, obviously things that were mentioned, sprites, pixies, and then for other Fey creatures, I think of like satyrs as Fey beings, and what's another classic kind of Fey creature?
The leprechaun, the dryad,
yeah. Do we want Kitsune is another one we were talking about? Do we want this race to be able to fit all of that? It's kind of the question we had about the entothropes. We were doing that.
The Fey are so inherently diverse.
Yeah.
Like the endothropes, there's the unifying idea that these are bugs. I feel like with the Fey, it's just like a Korid with crazy rock hair can be a Fey, and a tiny little sprite can be a Fey, and ancient elder powerful beings can, like, there's just so much going on that I think it's going to be hard to like make one sub-race that satisfies all that.
Yeah, and that's a huge issue here. Yeah. That's going to be a big problem. Is figuring that out.
But also in terms of like, if we're going in the direction of a tiefling, I wouldn't want to make something that's too close to that, as we don't want to just make like, you could just play a tiefling at that point and just find a way to pick the spells.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the problem I have right now is a lot what we would put in that, like, for example, obviously if you look at like the elf, right, is a great example of a Fey descended creature. I mean, if we were to make something too all-encompassing, it would just be a tiefling with like the Fey ancestry feature, and that would be it.
Yeah.
Which is
there's just no reason to. There's just no reason to bother with it. That's why I was thinking that the Seelie and Unseelie, like the winter and summer, something seasonal there might be an interesting way to go. But then you're also, I guess, you're branching a bit into Eladrin territory.
But what's the being, right? What is the creature? What does it look like? Is the question.
Green human. I mean, the being, we want to make something that's probably a little bit malleable.
That's the problem. Like with the term Feytouched, like I'm going that vague that can be a lot of things. I'm finding a hard time in my mind without making a lot of subclasses, right? Thinking of like, how are we going to do that? Because there's size categories that will change. There's, this might just be too broad a net.
I mean, we could make something that is, and let me just take a quick moment to clear our heads while we say thank you to Adrian P, who subscribed at tier 1. They've subscribed for, dear God, 16 months. Adrian P says it's the sweet 16. It's sweet. Every day that you've been here has been sweet for us, Switch, and thank you very much for your subscription.
Absolutely. Thank you, Switch. We love and appreciate you.
That's definitely true.
We saying Adrian P was saying, what happened to Water Derp? Water Derp's coming next weekend.
Next week, every other week.
Next. And Frog was. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not Frog. Oh wait, no, it was Frog. Talking about, did I suggest maybe 2 sub-races? Feyborn is classical Fey, and Oil de Fey is a more beast-like and bestial featured Fey.
I was also going to throw out, if we want to get a harder influence and start moving away from things, we could do a pixie-ish and sprite-ish and more like traditional fairy-ish character, focusing on that element, because that is an archetype. And we could maybe do, like, I'm picturing that as maybe like a winged human, something like a fey, not Birdman, but maybe like a worse flying speed than, say, an Aarakocra.
Yeah, the problem I have is when looking at the Aarakocra as a race, because I'm okay with there being more powerful and less powerful. I get that. That's part of the design in a game like this. Aarakocra has a lot, like, it doesn't give very much. It's basically just a +2 to dexterity and flight. That's it. That's really all.
That's because flight is so powerful.
Yeah.
So I think maybe there's something we can do to trim back flight.
Dude, that's gonna be so hard.
We could take maybe like a Protector Aasimar direction and give him like flight for a little bit. You can use flight in like a combat, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And not make the feature busted. And that's, I think, a direction we could go. And we can start looking at more stuff as we go. But maybe, like, how do you feel, just less than talking about the logistics of it, how do you feel about going a traditional fairy-ish direction with it rather than just the Feywild on the whole?
How large is it?
I think medium, honestly. I like the idea of them being big. And that's like, that feels Feytouched to me, is like, you're touched by the Fey. You're like a regular person that has been influenced by the Fey.
So what if we had 2 sub-races? And one of them is the fairy, right? What would the other one be? Like the dryad, right? Is the other one?
Like the Sylvan would probably be the word for it, or something like that.
I think that's a great direction to be going.
And it would
right
be
at the bat. Like, are we looking at Seelie, Unseelie, or can this be either?
Depends. I mean, basically, just we choose that. We can just make cool either way on that. The Seelie Unseelie is a thing that I very much like the lore of the Feywild, so I'm influenced in that regard and wanting to use that in it. But I'm not like, mechanically we can do something else other than Seelie and Unseelie.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, like, because there are fairies on both sides of it, right?
Sylvan is the language. I don't think it should be called that, says Adrian P. I don't think that's necessarily a problem.
Yeah, I don't think so as well.
Do
you have a different idea?
For what?
No, I was asking, sorry, Adrian in the chat.
Oh.
If you guys have a better idea for, like, the forest-y option, I mean, we'll take it. But, if we're doing the fairy, and then what are we going to do for the other one?
Yeah, well, that would be the question. Like fairy versus forest, then you wouldn't do the Seelie on Seelie thing. The Seelie on Seelie thing would probably be if we did fairy and more going a more foresty direction or focusing on the fairy, we could divide it that way. And have it be more of like a darkly tinged one and more of like basically edgier tones versus brighter, more colorful tones. Like the evil of the Feywild versus the light and kind of whimsy of the Feywild would be the idea, I think, there.
There's a
I
lot
think
of talk going around in chat about the Wilda Fey. I don't know. I'm not seeing like. I guess
so,
if the Satyr falls under that.
I think there's two divisions here that we can pick. We can pick. Do we want to do Fey whimsy versus Fey danger, or do we want to do Fey magic versus Fey nature?
Yeah, I think we want to go that kind of direction, right?
The former or the latter?
I think we want like the whimsy and the natural side. You know what I mean?
I was saying whimsy versus danger, or because I think those are the two dualities of the Feywild, which would be like the magic of the Fey versus like the natural part of the Feywild.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling you.
So I think, like, I guess you could make an argument that you could call the magic the whimsy of the Fae. So
it's so intermingled, right?
Yeah, it's all one thing. But I think those are like the two core binaries. So it seems like you're interested in the nature-ish side of things.
Yeah, I suppose, because danger is so vague for a concept. You know?
Well, I would say like whimsy versus like trickery would be a better way to put it. And like I think we can hone that down. I'm just saying that as like fun and goofy or dark and scary.
Maybe we should just look at the fairy first and see if we can do that at all. Right?
The fairy.
If we can build a chassis for the fairy that works, that we can take the flight off of and create other stuff with, great. But if we can't build enough of like a core chassis and still have the flight, we're not going to get it. You know, and we're going to hit a wall anyway. There might not be room on a creature, right, that has flight to then also have other options.
Sure. So let's give it a shot.
Sure. So I mean, right off the bat, charisma's +2.
Yep, charisma +2, and I think wisdom +1. But
yeah, I could say maybe.
Dexterity too.
Dex. We're getting hard already.
Definitely not strength. I have strength and inth both feel off to me. Con feels.
Yeah.
Con feels a little bit off too.
Con's wrong for a fairy.
I could maybe see int. But I feel wisdom feels better. Yeah. And maybe we build it and we decide we want to do.
Because right now we're thinking of a size category medium.
Yeah, I guess if we're going like the more, I picture the agility of the Fae is definitely a thing, but
yeah,
if we're going like a more, this is just influenced by the Fae rather than being a Fae being itself, maybe not Dex, maybe wisdom, I don't know. And maybe that's like if we're doing a sub race, we might apply those differently.
So we'll just leave both of them up there for now.
Yeah, I think that's a good place. I'm into medium.
Medium creature?
How do you feel about medium? Because I know you haven't thought about that. That was my idea.
I feel like every player who wants to play a fairy wants to be a small creature.
You think so?
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of like my thought. I don't think of like a full-size fairy man flying around, you know? I think that the iconic example people like is the pixie with the great sword, right? The pixie barbarian.
Matt O'Brien.
You don't think of the full-size human with butter. At least I don't.
Yeah, well, I was just picturing it because we were kind of on the idea of it. I was picturing Fey Tiefling. You know, that's why I was on that kind of train of thought. But if we want to make something, because then that also feels more catch-all. I could imagine that like being an easy thing to, for example, like make a story about. Like, I'm a human that was influenced by the Fae. I'm going to play like a Fey warlock or something like that. As opposed to just you are a Fey creature, which is a little bit more wild in terms of its like, I just think like readiness for how I would think about that character. as this is more of like the medium creature is basically I think more of a blank slate as opposed to the small creature is more of it's kind of telling you that you're like a whimsical fae.
Yeah, but what do we want to make? Do we want to make just like a Fey Tiefling? See, when I said Fey Tiefling earlier, I meant it more in the mechanical aspect of it, where you might have a bunch of different. I was really thinking of the Historic Coast Adventurers guide, where it was one stat block for a lot of different aesthetics, I guess you could say. And I was just thinking, like,
I was thinking a similar aesthetic. Like I was just thinking something that was more flavorable, and you were thinking something that was more defined. I guess I don't. Frankly, I don't really care either way, and not in like the negative way. I think both have a lot of validity.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I feel like there's not a lot of people who want to play. Like an Aasimar, right, is a human with a divine heritage. I feel like there's people who want that because that's the conflict between the Tiefling and the Aasimar is good and evil, right? It's your heritage, your good heritage versus your evil. And I think there's a lot of interest to that, and that's why those are common races. But when you look at the Fae, right, they're not good or evil. They're kind of chaotic. And
yeah.
that's a very different heritage than a good or evil. It's chaotic. It's not defined. So it's just, like I feel like people don't have an idea of what they want to roll with it. I don't see a lot of desire, at least I don't think, for that kind of deal.
Well, we have and also please speak up in chat because this is something that you guys would play. So please let us know what you think. I know Frog was saying.
Oh my gosh. If you have a full-size ferryman like the Tooth Fairy movie.
I love it. Oh, was The Rock the Tooth Fairy or was Larry the Cable Guy? Larry the Cable Guy might have been the Tooth Fairy in that movie. Frog was saying small, so there's one vote for small.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna do something like this, we're gonna do a fairy-like option. I think we need a small option, or maybe they can become small.
I'm into that too.
That might be interesting.
V Bunny is also saying in the small direction. The reason why small just she says break the mold and give a choice.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, right? Like, what if it could do both? That'll add that Fey whimsy if it can change its size.
Change your size category is like a.
Yeah, it's like a I don't know, 10-minute thing. Or action
because
even.
That was the thing, and I'm actually very into that because the thing that was throwing me off and making me feel kind of funky about it was that small doesn't really cover what you really want, which is to be tiny. But I don't think we want to do tiny. So like an ability to be a tiny creature for a while would be cool as hell. Because like small, if you're just like a little dude walking around, it's kind of like, it's just like you're not the fairy that you want to be. You're just small. You're just like a halfling, you know?
Yeah. I love the idea that maybe they have one of their core features, right? Is what do we want to call that feature? Malleable size? That's a terrible name.
Face-sized. Face-sized.
Maybe not. I don't. It's like whimsical transformation doesn't quite work.
Something with some nice alliteration.
You don't want to do pint size. We need a good name for that feature.
Flexible form, like.
Bigify and biggin. Action. You can cause yourself increase in size category. In size category. Yeah. For this effect lasts 10 minutes. So yeah, we'll just say once per day.
So you want to be big, you want to be little and then get bigger?
I think we can do both.
Oh, and then you want to get tiny too?
Yeah. What's a good one for embiggen? To go the opposite of embiggen. Big Chungus. Oh no. An Ant-Man style character. Yeah, hello, my neighbor. Welcome.
Hi.
Good to see you. We're not going to call the ability small boy. Interchangeable sizes too, like mechanical. One size fits all isn't a bad name.
Embiggen, if we're doing Embiggen and then we want to have another goofy one, like Smallify.
I like that.
If we're going goofy, which that does, there's something Fey about that. You can Embiggen and Smallify at once to say the same for 10 minutes.
Mini and Wumbo. Oh, and rather than increasing size category, we can just say to become a medium creature. And then to become a tiny creature. Much easier.
V-Bunny was saying he wanted to see them both be Bigify and Smallify.
Shrinken and Embiggen.
But I feel like Shrinken is close to a word, but I do kind of like it.
I like it. I like that a lot. Thank you, Holman.
Yeah, indeed.
Yep, no, I dig it. I'm looking at it now. It's good. Also, it's not giving me any... Are these actual words? It's not auto-correcting them.
It's the capital
Holy
letters probably
shit.
looks...
No, Embiggen is a word.
Embiggen is a word?
As is Shrinken.
Shrinken I felt like was a word.
Shrinken is from Chaucer.
Of course it is.
Go fucking figure. Well done, my neighbor. Excellent. So we got two really good words here. Let's look at spell enlarge reduce. I think that's a really good place to look at what these effects do. Right? Might be interesting. Do we want to put anything on these?
I mean, I'll say this. I don't think we're going to have time to completely flesh out these abilities tonight, because I think these are going to get pretty intricate. So I would rather just paint in broad strokes like this. We know they have Embiggen, we know they have Shrinken. They can go up and down, and then work the logistics later.
Yeah. So I'm going to just put this text in here. This is from the enlarge reduced spell. Well, hello, my neighbor. Well done. Good choice of words. Your size doubles in all dimensions, and your weight is multiplied by 8. To double in all dimensions, and your weight...
V-Bunny asks, what do you mean by put anything on them? I think Jordan was asking, does just the sentence, does just the sentence, once per day is an action, you can cause yourself to decrease to a tiny creature, or increase to a large creature, or to a medium creature. Was that enough? Could we just say that, or is there something that we have to put for the text of that?
No, I think we definitely... I really like this text here from the enlarge reduce spell.
I mean, it's
think
classic.
It's just classic.
You can just use it.
I think it's just right to use the correct language. And I will just do that for the other one too.
And we also have to decide if we want to put, like, the mechanics of that. Are we going to give, while a medium creature, do we want to give advantage on?
I think not, and I think the idea is you're a Fey. You don't suffer the penalties or gain the bonuses of these different things. This is just something you can do. Right?
Yeah, it makes them very flavorful. Doesn't add a lot of, like... I guess the only real incentive to use one form or the other then would just be the, like, I want to fit through something small, or I want to weigh a little bit more. I wouldn't mind, honestly, I wouldn't even mind keeping the penalties and effects of it, because that just seems like have a reason. But then maybe the ability to cast enlarge on yourself once a day is too good. I don't know.
Well, I think then we need to consider, right? Like, maybe... Because what the effect really does, right, is it strength checks and strength saving throws and extra damage. Or strength checks and strength saving throws and less damage. And I'm just a little worried of, like, the barbarian, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what that issue
It's like
might
the
be.
extra damage is just funky.
Well, I think either way, we don't need to figure that out right now. I think putting something on it as an ability to, like, incentivize it a little bit more than just being larger. Because, like, personally, I can't picture ever using a biggin, other than for, like, raw flavor. There's just no reason to do it. Because, like, a shrinkin has the purpose of, like, I want to fit through a smaller space, but a biggin would just be, like, you just do it. So, for the funsies. But, again, this is a thing we can come back to. We would know we want to have them, make them flexible.
So maybe we make a note on embiggen.
Yeah.
Well, we know that we need to. What else did we want this Feytouched to do? They want to give them flight, right?
We wanted to give them flight. I don't know if we want to do the same kind of thing that we're doing with embiggen and shrinkin, and make it permanent, or...
It's interesting if we want to give... that's tough.
Because we've already now put a couple of 1 per day abilities on it, and just stacking it up with those is weird. Yeah.
Like, I'm almost okay with just putting the flight on too.
And then it's...
Because these are very much flavorful abilities here.
And then is it just kind of done?
Well, no, because I think we need to go and look at the elf.
There's definitely going to be charm resistance. That feels like it's got to be a Fey thing.
Well, what's their fly speed?
Fairy fly speed is
well, this isn't a fairy.
What do you mean?
This is a Feytouched, right? We haven't given them a thing yet.
Yeah, but you said what's their fly speed? The fly speed would be 30.
30? I think 30 would be okay.
It's not the Aarakocra 60, that's for sure. But it's still...
Aarakocra is 50, yeah.
A 50.
Intentionally not enough to catch most flying creatures. Weird. So I think one thing that we've come across by this point is there's no way we've got room for a side race.
No way we got room for what?
A side race here. I think Fairy is its own deal.
It would be...
We were looking at Fairy and maybe Sylvan, and I don't think there's enough room with this chassis as it is.
Yeah, we'd have to do, like I said, we have to do something with the flight, and then mess around with embiggen and shrinkin. I mean, there's a lot we'd have to do if we want to do anything.
Yeah, so I think we'll just call it just the one for now. And maybe we just call it the Fairy.
And again, for now.
Yeah, for now. Let's say, Frog, or actually, Hell, my neighbor had some concepts. Armor class stays the same for small size, but there's a disadvantage on enemy hits. Bigger size increases armor class, but disadvantage. Yeah, it just, I don't know. There's a lot of mechanic that ties into that. There's a lot of balance that I think would affect other classes.
Yeah.
Armor loadouts pretty substantially. So I'm not sure we want to get that granular. Frog was saying that because fairies are very social creatures, they can have an effect that gives them advantage on checks during social situations. I don't know.
It's a little bit hard. Things that are a little bit too lawyery like that. Like the problem is it isn't even like the skill proficiencies. It's more the aspect of variability to it, where a player will like, well, I'm talking to them. I would say that this is a social situation, and that kind of stuff will end up coming up a lot more than you probably want it to in that design. Also, I think, well, then if we're doing just a fairy and we're just making a fairy, then I think +1 dex. And
yeah, I agree.
Honestly, even +2 dex, +1 charisma, like, because fairy is.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. And then my neighbor was saying some interesting stuff about the flight, suggesting to tie it to the phase of the moon. It's cool, but it's a little complicated. In a full campaign, that would totally be like a thing. You could
totally for sure. In the context of what we do in DnDTime, it would get a little bit funky.
Yeah, it would be a little weird.
And we decided on small creature, so do you want to switch over to 25 feet and 25 feet?
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe the fly speed of 25 feet feels so low.
It's low, but it's also like convenient. Then in that case, since we're building it around Aarakocra, we could do 25 and 50.
Yeah, but then there's no room for anything.
That's true.
Well,
but there's already
better than the Aarakocra.
It's close to that.
What if we do 25, 35?
35 feels kind of arbitrary, though.
It is very arbitrary. I'm picking it right now, totally arbitrarily, to be worse than the Aarakocra, but not 25 feet.
I feel like that's a bad reason to pick 25, because like 25, 50 feels like they go twice as fast when they're flying as when they're going, or 25, 25, it's like, yeah, they fly or they walk.
What? P. How fast does a fairy or a pixie actually have movement? They have a movement speed of 10 feet and 30
so you want to do 10, 30?
I think that might be okay. We can just give like the idea for this, like the concept here is they're always flying a little. I think 10-30 would be pretty good.
It's not bad. Again, that really leans into, and this was one of the core problems I had with it from the beginning with the small size, it really leans into that like tiny little thing flying next to you, which again, it's a halfling sized thing flying next to you, which is really kind of weird, I feel for it. But yeah. I'm not opposed mechanically to 10-30.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just to discuss this, because we immediately ruled it out, what is the issue with making a tiny creature? Like, what are the problems with that?
Really, there aren't that many complications. There are like mechanics for tiny creatures that like you're supposed to follow regarding like damage die and things like that. It's just a little wonky. We could just ignore it, and that's what I think most people do. But
it's
other issues of like, well, okay, I'm tiny, I can get full cover behind anything. You know, in their backpack, I have full cover. There are issues, you know.
That's true. Yeah, I guess it's just the size things. It might be a thing to think about and see if there's a way that we can kind of make it work and jury rig it a little bit to jerry rig it. What's the word I want to use?
I think it's okay to call it. Give it this, maybe even 20 and 30, and call it the small creature, right? And just have a caveat on size.
I don't have an issue with the mechanics of it. It's just it just feels kind of goofy, honestly. Like I just keep picturing like a gnome or a halfling just kind of like next to you, which is which is kind of goofy and doesn't quite scream the fairy, which is again like that was also why I wanted to do the medium, because the small felt wild, which I like the embiggen and shrinken thing that we're getting at, but I know it's a thing to think about, and because we're also getting near to end of time, I think we have time to think about it too.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of issues with going too small for things, and that also can affect adventures, right? Like, all right, there is a collapsed thing, and all right, I just go through it. I just crawl through a small hole. Well, that makes things, it gets weird. There are things that like would affect our adventure design if you go too small as well.
I think it's just like a question of.
And yeah, I mean, stuff like, V-Bunny saying in the chat, right? Oh, advantage on stealth checks while tiny. Well, that makes sense. But what else also makes sense while tiny, right? You can just keep
a lot of things
stuff on there.
Yeah, and a lot of things like, also there would be downsides to being tiny. Like you just get destroyed if you get hit. Like that kind of stuff.
You do less damage or whatever. You have fewer health.
You do less damage, you get hit harder. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that can.
So there's a lot to think about. The embiggen and shrinken, this is stuff we're going to look at another time.
Oh, I think, that was for the embiggen and shrinken.
Let's look at that, because that's where we got to look at now for Fey ancestry. That's where we're at.
We want to probably put charm advantage on this, charm and sleep.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's Fey ancestry is the for that.
And probably for this, because of the direction that we've gone, we don't want to call it Fey ancestry. We probably want to call it Fey.
Yeah. Indeed. What's interesting is the centaur from Zenithar or Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, even though it has the Fey type, doesn't have this Fey ancestry.
It's wacky.
It doesn't have the immunity to charm or resistance to charm and whatever.
Yeah, which is weird. Also, well, centaurs don't though, do they?
No, but I just want to point something out, right? If all creatures in the Feywild have resistance to charm, what's the point of charming people? You know what
I think they charm. I think they charm people outside the Feywild.
I mean, I suppose. What's like a couple of Fey creatures, like a red cap? Red cap doesn't have resistance to charm. What's another Fey creature? Like green.
A lot of the actual like a lot of the low level ones don't. It's just like the idea. It's just a Fey thing.
None of the hags. What's another? What is the rock one?
The Korrid. The Korrid probably doesn't.
Korrid does not have.
I mean, even the Pixie and Sprite don't have resistance.
Yeah. So why? Why would we actually put that on there? I feel like the sleep thing has to do specifically with
elves.
Yeah. And you know, blink dogs don't have resistance to fate. I don't think almost any of the fey creatures have resistance to charm. So I don't know if we actually need that.
I'm definitely down to at least get rid of the sleep thing for sure. That makes sense to me.
I just don't think we need it at all. Even. You know?
Yeah. No, you're making sense. I get you.
Yeah, I think that's just a specifically L thing. What about immunity? Oh, you're right, Adrian. No, none of those things you mentioned had immunity either. I'm actually interested if we looked at all how many of them would actually be resistant to like charms and stuff. I imagine not that many, right?
Probably not that many.
I mean, at the lower level, right? Like what's quicklings? Quicklings don't have any resistance or anything. And then at the super high levels, there aren't a lot of high levels. I mean, the hags, the Yeth Hound. Yeah, none of them are resistant to charm. None of them at all. No, actually, I don't think there's anyone that is resistant or immune to charm.
You know which one is
including the Eladrin.
The Eladrin have magic resistance.
They have Oh,
and so does like a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's what we were missing.
Oh, the Korrid doesn't.
The pixies have magic resistance. Like
the hags don't. I don't know. I don't think it's that far-reaching still. The Nereid doesn't.
That was this was throwing me off, but that makes sense. It's magic resistance that a lot of things have.
Not a lot of them. Not a lot of the Fae have it. In fact, very few of them do. It's really just the
Dryad, the Pixie.
The Dryad?
The Dryad has it, I believe. Yeah, I thought I saw.
The Dryad does. Anyway, not the point.
The Satyr.
Yeah, some of them do. You're right, but not all of them. I just want to play.
Yeah, no, not all of them. So what you're saying? So I guess where we've left ourselves in the conclusion is we should give them magic resistance.
Oh, of course, perfect balance. Slap it on there, perfect. Let's give them a +2 to their a +3 to their charisma. Even we'll break the mold. I kid, of course. Man, this is so complicated.
Well, that's what again, and we're approaching time.
Yeah. What else makes sense for a fairy, right?
Like dancing lights.
Some spells.
Magic, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think that's a terrible idea. I think the Azamar has text for gaining the light spell, right? What is it called?
A light cantrip?
Yeah, light bearer. You know the light cantrip.
Yeah.
What do you want to call that?
Fey fire, something like that. Fairy fire. Oh, fairy. Oh, well, we can't call it fairy fire. That's a spell.
look up the drow, Adrian, for drow magic. Oh yeah. We could give them a drow magic like figure, but I think what we want to do is we want to put a lot of the power on this embiggen and shrinken, and
we also we have flight. Yeah,
I don't think we have room for that kind of power. I don't. Even a charmed person.
A cantrip is probably the most we could fit, and dancing lights seems like, to me, dancing lights is the cantrip. The only one other one I could be talked into is friends, but I feel like dancing lights is just a better one.
Yeah,
because friends is such a weird spell. I just don't like the design of. Oh yeah, Frog was saying the same thing. Friends, yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. I think there's a justification for it, but I just don't really like the design of the friend spell.
Yeah, it
feels more like a trap than a.
Yeah, I agree. I think just giving them the dancing light spell feels more Fey to me. Dancing lights is nice. I agree. You can do a lot with dancing lights. It's a very versatile cantrip, and it's designed to. Yeah, I think we're just about at the end of the rope in terms of like reasonable things we could put here. Druidcraft maybe makes more sense.
Again, without like major, just changes on the whole, I think that's probably as good as it'll get.
Yeah. Maybe we could start like thinking a little bit. Data, stop eating the cords. My cat's being bad. Apologies. Do we want to think about embiggen and shrinken at all? Or are we kind of at the end of our rope for tonight?
I feel like
because we're hitting a wall.
I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time because I'm still still hung up on the size thing, and I feel like we could do some cool stuff if we made them medium and then just didn't do embiggen and really focused on shrinken. Okay. But again, like that's a thing we can think about, and I think I'm the only one on that camp too, so I don't want to push it too hard. I know some other people were saying that camp. Yeah, because I know a few other people were definitely feeling the small well as well.
I really like I want them to have an ability called embiggen.
Embiggen.
Such a good word. It's such it's such like a whimsical word too. I'm feeling it.
Lulu, dude.
Oh, I guess you're right. It is. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, we got Fey lights, we got flight, we've got embiggen, we got shrinken. I like the direction we're going. But I think we're definitely hitting a wall.
Any other things like just like in general that we would want on a Fey type creature?
On a fairy specifically, because that's what we're making. We're making a fairy.
Magic, flight. That's it. Magic and flight are the two things that fairies do.
And some weird, shrinky and growy magic.
Magic,
like Alice in Wonderland-esque.
Magic resistance.
Ew.
I'm not saying magic resistance, but that's the kind of thing. Like other things fairies do. Like there's invisibility. Like you look at the pixie. There's heart sight. You can look at a creature and know their emotional state. The sprite also knows the creature's alignment. God.
I see Sheba saying in the chat, these are going to be way too strong. Sheba, you're right. They're going to be pretty strong. But we're going to have to put some pretty serious weaknesses on embiggen and shrinken. Right now, I think they're actually fine balance-wise. I think we could ship this and say balance.
Yeah.
But like Pete was saying earlier, we want to put something on these abilities to make them more meaningful.
We want them to be fun to use.
Yeah. And they're going to need drawbacks. They're going to need some sort of weakness.
Or, we find a way to take away a weakness, to add a weakness somewhere else. Not by like adding, for example, your weak feature, but by like changing the flight would be the place to do.
Yeah. But that's something we can discuss more another time, because we're out for tonight, gentlemen and ladies and whoever may be watching. We are out for the time being. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with us this evening for DnDTime Brews. We are here every other Sunday for the show, but the Sundays that we're not doing DnDTime Brews, we run a campaign called Waterdeep Dragon Heist. we're nearing the end of it, actually. There's only 1 or 2 more episodes left in the campaign, so make sure to tune in. It should be very exciting. You're running out of time to catch up, too. Check out
The grand finale is nigh.
Well, it might be the penultimate finale. It might not be the grand finale.
It's still nigh.
But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm very excited to run it. And of course, check out other content throughout the week. Pete, you want to rattle that off?
I would absolutely love to do that. You can watch on, I can't remember any of it. You can watch on Wednesday, DnDTime Talks, where we're going to be talking about something related to Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition specifically, and generally speaking, it's advice for DMs and for players. And on this upcoming Wednesday, we've been on a little bit of a world-building kick lately. We might continue on that train, we might not. That will be announced on Monday, but don't be surprised if we do something in that regard. Additionally, tune in on Friday. For anyone who is unaware, on every Friday, we run a show called Pete and Jeremy's D&D Time, where Jeremy and I run one-shots with members of our community and people who hang out and watch the streams here, which we do 3 of them every week. They're always a lot of fun. The adventures are goofy. That's what, actually, tonight we were doing DnDTime Brews for, is designing things for that game that we run on Fridays. So if you're interested in joining that, you can find the link underneath the stream here.
Yeah, it's always a ton of fun. We welcome new players, anyone who wants to come play with us. Yeah, come have fun, come play some D&D with me.
And also, a huge thank you to all of you for hanging out and for watching tonight. I always love DnDTime Brews. We got some cool stuff done. I really like where we kind of ended up on the Grung, and I know that once we get a little bit deeper into this here fairy character, it's going to start looking real cool too. And so, for those of you who commented and contributed ideas or just watched and hung out, we really appreciate you.
Thank you all again. We love you guys, and we'll catch you next week. I am Jeremy.
And I'm Pete, and this is DnDTime Brews. Good night, everyone.
Good night.